While renovating an abandoned school, I discovered this chilling photo, hidden away in the attic. The story behind it's more sinister than I could have ever imagined. It was September 1948 in Stonington, Maine. The school year was just beginning, and it was Julia Florian's first day teaching 3rd grade. The school was far from town, inconvenient really, but Julia needed the work. She'd have to leave early tomorrow. She was already running late. Julia hurried through the heavy double doors, knowing that the children would be waiting for her in the classroom. "Good morning, everyone." Took a bit of a long... Julia's voice fell away. Her words forgotten as confusion mixed with a twinge of panic skittered up the back of her neck right into her brain. Julia's stomach tightened as she stared out at a sea of eerie, expressionless masks. The eye holes were cut out, but the unmoving, molded plastic mouths were frozen. She was deeply unsettled, but reassured herself they must be playing a game, a little hazing of the new teacher, right? She regained composure. What else could she do? Julia strode to the chalkboard and wrote her name, Miss Florian. "All right, children, remove your masks. Playtime's over," she said crisply. "We can't. They told us not to take them off," a muffled voice said, void of inflection. "Are they for play or something?" Julia asked in a whisper, looking for a reasonable explanation. The only sound was the soft, rhythmic breathing that seemed to echo in the claustrophobic classroom. For a long time, Julia just stared, clutching a loose thread on her dress, as if it were keeping her from unraveling. Who were these children? What lay behind those chilling masks? "Where did you come from?" a flat, lifeless voice asked. "Here, Stonington," Julia stammered, still gripping the strand that had worked its way free from the fabric's tight weave, like it's a puppet string she'd collapse without. "What's it like outside?" another child inquired, tilting their head to the side in a disturbingly mechanical motion. "Is it true that children don't wear masks out there?" a third voice chimed in, a hint of longing creeping into their monotone. Julia stared at the painted-on expressions as she wondered how long the children had been confined to the school, and why. The school bell jolted her out of her thoughts. The children quickly packed up their belongings and shuffled into the hallway. Julia stumbled into the teacher's lounge, her heart pounding, her mind haunted by the strange masked children. Principal Deem stood in the shadows, his face half lit by the flickering fluorescent light. "Well, well, Miss Florian," he drawled, his voice dripping with honey-coated venom. "I see you've met our little special cases." Julia's blood ran cold. "Why are they wearing those masks, Principal Deem? What's wrong with them?" Deem's eyes glittered with a dark, unsettling knowledge. "Trust me, Miss Florian, you don't want to know what's under those masks. Those children, they're not quite right." Julia asks, "But surely someone can help them. They're just children." Deem let out a harsh laugh. "Oh, you have no idea what you're walking into." He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "They arrived here on a ship after the war. No warning, no explanation. We're already doing more than we should, housing and schooling them. But with our new technological methods, we'll alter them. It's really quite exciting." Julia's heart hammered in her chest, a sickening sense of dread coiling in her gut. "What are you saying?" Deem's smile was cruel, his eyes filled with a terrible knowledge. "I'm saying, Miss Florian, that you should pray you never see what's beneath those masks." He glanced at the clock, his expression suddenly cold and impassive. "Time to get back to your students, Miss Florian. And remember, curiosity killed the cat." As Julia walked back to the classroom, her legs trembling, she could feel the weight of Deem's words pressing down on her. She paused outside the classroom door, her hand shaking as she reached for the handle. The children's voices drifted out to her. "Just for a minute," one pleaded. "It feels good to breathe." Julia's heart pounded as she reached for the door, a sense of dread mingling with morbid curiosity. She had to see, has to know the truth. She threw open the door. The scene before her seemed to unfold in slow motion. The children, maskless, their faces. Julia's scream caught in her throat as she recoiled at the sight of their monstrous, hideous features. Their skin was repulsively smooth, their noses freakishly small, and features so disturbingly symmetrical it was as if they belonged to creatures from another world. Julia backed away, her hand flying to her mouth. What were these things? The children stared at her, their expressions morphing from shock to shame. One began to cry, a heartbreakingly ordinary sound. Another whispered, "I told you we should have left them on." And then, a hand on Julia's shoulder, she whirled around to see Principal Deem, his face etched with anger. "I warned you, Miss Florian," he said, his voice a guttural rasp. "Some things are best left unseen." "What will happen to them?" Julia asked, her voice trembling. Principal Deem's face hardened, his eyes glinting with a cold determination. "They will undergo the necessary procedures to correct their deformities." Julia nodded. "Thank God," she said. "There's hope for them." Her eyes wide with revulsion as she stumbled away.